So, a warm welcome to everyone again. Welcome, Dr. Parida, my fellow colleagues from Shivnada University, and participants of this FDP program. So, I welcome you all of you to the session 8 of this faculty development program, which is sponsored by AICTE Training and Learning Academy. And in this session, we will talk about the remote sensing and GIS techniques used for flood modeling. And the speaker of the session is Dr. Vikas Parida from Central University of Jharkhand, Ranchi. So before I hand over the session to Dr. Parida, let me introduce all of you to Dr. Parida. So Dr. Parida is presently working as an assistant professor at Central University of Jharkhand since 2016. Prior to joining Central University of Jharkhand, he was employed at Shivnada University in the Department of Civil Engineering. He worked as a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute of Environment, University of California, Los Angeles. He obtained his PhD in Natural Sciences from Max Planck Institute of Meteorology, University of Hamburg, and his master's is in geoinformatics from University of Twente, the Netherlands. He has been involved in earth and environmental studies, specifically solving the environmental problems using space-based technologies and climate modeling. He's interested on cost-cutting activities related to land, atmosphere, surface exchanges processes, carbon cycling modeling, application areas in hydrology, agriculture, forest and natural resource monitoring and assessment, as well as climate change. He has contributed to several national level research projects such as SERB grants from our Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has been the recipient of Startup Research Grant by UGC, NISAR project by SAC, Ahmedabad, and he has also published more than 40 research publications in peer-reviewed journals. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Parida for this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Des. And I welcome all the participants. And I learned that most of the participants have diversified backgrounds and from different domains. So since I have given a specific topic related to SAR data and how this remote sensing GIS can be helpful for hydrological studies. So in my talk, so mostly I will discuss some of the case studies, how we are working using satellite data and how we are applying that for solving some of the hydrological issues. So during my presentation slide, so I'm switching off my video so that I will get good bands for the audio part. So I think this video is not required. So I'm sharing my screen. So I hope now my slides are visible.
Yes, Dr. Parida, it is visible. Yes. And your audio is also very clear.
Okay. And in between, if you have questions, participants, so you can also stop me, so we can have a discussion if you have any query. Otherwise, we have some time we'll get after towards last 30 minutes, so we can have a discussion also. So the title of my talk is Remote Sensing and GIS Techniques for Flood Modeling. Since introduction is already given, so I do not need to tell about my present workplace. So mostly I will give you a little bit about the introductions and related to some climate change. And then I will try to show some of the case studies related to flooding. So specifically like evaluations of error in satellite derived precipitations over the Himalayan regions. Nowadays, the satellite products, especially the rainfall product or you can say precipitation products, there are several products, at least 5 products are available. And that covers global level data sets. So any parts of the area, you can access the database. But we need some kind of understanding whether especially if somebody is working over the Himalayan areas, because over that Himalayan regions, you know that the topography is very complex and it is varying, from one place to another place, and therefore whether the satellite data is capturing, whether that precipitation data is useful or not. So to analyze that or to get some idea of that, so this is one study has been conducted. And then a second case study I will show you related to how we can do the flood mapping, basically the inundation part, using the optical data. So that is called the MODIS NRT product. So NRT is near real-time product. So, and this product is it is available everyday basis. This the data can be accessible, and this is optical, based on the optical data. So then we'll go for same thing, like how we can do inundation mapping using the SAR data. So that is synthetic aperture data. So I am introducing both optical data and SAR data because you will get to know what kind of applications or what kind of limitations are there with the satellite specific satellite data, okay, or the specific remote sensing like optical, or the you have the active remote sensing, passive and active remote sensing. And then subsequently, I will tell you about how we can compute the flood water depth. Like, so the flood is, you know that in India, most of the states, like the Brahmaputra basins, and then in southern basin, in southern part of India, also there are many basins. We frequently observe the flood, including the in North Bihar, which is related to you have Kosi basins, and then Ganga basin. So across the India, you will find this is one of the classical problems that has been observed over the years, but so far we do not have a concrete solutions. So, and the depth part is like how do we calculate the depth, like how much is the flood water, based on the your satellite data. And then there is another classical example that one can, many people are also working on the soil moisture modeling. Okay, so soil moisture modeling also, it is very difficult to do using the optical data. So therefore you need to take the help from the microwave data. So I'll show some results on that. And most of all the studies, basically all the studies are done by me only, so my group here. So therefore this is not from the others, so that we can discuss it and we can learn it how we can use all satellite data for flood modeling. And then so the question arises, why we are trying to use the only SAR data or any kind of satellite data for doing the flood modeling. So for doing the flood modeling, we have also different options, like to use the hydrological modelings. Okay, so one can also use that. So only the fundamental difference between those things are, if you are using the model, any kind of model, so it demands a huge quantity of or huge number of the input parameters. Okay, and that part can be minimized if you are doing similar calculations using the you have your space-bound data. Okay, in the space-bound data you will get good accuracy without getting such kind of huge number of input parameters. So that was the one fundamental differences why people are using satellite data and then some modern machine learning techniques to obtain the flood mapping or the inundations mapping. Okay. Just to have a quick introductions on related to hydrometeorological hazards. So we know that flood is a part of the hydrometeorological hazards, and if you try to compute the kind of loss that we have, especially the economical losses in India, so it has been estimated that around 58% of the total damage of Southern Asia is mostly from the India itself. So this data is a average data based on the 1972 to 2015. So there is a EMDAT. So there is a database. You can access all the data from EMDAT website, and then you can analyze all this kind of damages. And based on that data, so it has been noticed that in India, so around 228 flood events has been occurred, and then another 139 storms related to cyclones basically, and some extreme events which is like around 52, and also oftenly we also observed a drought also in many parts of the India. and then also fire. So these are the different natural disasters are happening, and out of those, some of are hydrometeorological hazards. And if you look the number of fatalities that is happening over Asia, America, Africa, so you get the idea that around 56% of the deaths that is happening mostly from the Asia. So with respect to your economical damage and as well as the mortality, so especially Asian countries, including India, so we do not have that much coping capacity to minimize the losses. And then these are the different series of disasters mostly we experienced in India, especially that includes floods, flash floods, and drought cyclones, extreme weather events like cloud bursts, and even the groundwater contamination. So these are the all classical problems we have in India. And the decadal analysis, if you see, so after 1970, most of these events are increasing. That is because of the climate change also. There is a strong connections with the climate change. So therefore, the flooding intensities, the frequencies, and also the extreme temperature, they have been also increasing due to the global climate change. So that part also, it is one of the, it is intensifying all these problems. And then some of the solutions that especially the geospatial communities is trying to provide is some kind of quick assessment and some kind of forecasting related applications. So therefore, the geospatial approaches is being slowly increasing in this field to monitor the hydrometeorological hazards. And then the innovations of space technology and all different techniques of remote sensing, GIS, it is being become a newer dimensions to detect and monitor any kind of hydrometeorological related disasters. Since the frequency of the disaster is it is intensifying by the climate change, so I would like to, in the introduction part, I will give little flavor about the climate change things. And we know that we have the earth system science, and in the earth system science, so there are 5 important parts, which is atmospheres, hydrospheres, biospheres, and then geosphere is related to land, and then we have the cryospheres, so that's ice and the glacier fields. And all these parts, they are actually governing the climate change, because if you see their connections, they all are interconnected. All the 5 components are interconnected, and because there is energy and fluxes is actually transferring from one sphere to, or one system to another systems, and that makes the climate change more complex. And further, we know that greenhouse gases, because there are so many greenhouse gases, and nowadays because of the anthropogenical activities, we know that CO2 has been increasing greatly, and that is a strong greenhouse gas. And because of the greenhouse gas, so we have the temperature is increasing. And if you think that the ideal atmosphere without greenhouse gases, this is a fact that the planet would be much colder, which is about minus 20 degrees Celsius. So that means if there is no presence of greenhouse gases, so then we will be living around minus 20 degrees Celsius temperatures. But at the same time, due to over the since the industrialization started, so after that the CO2 has been increasing continuously, and that also has the bad impacts on the climate change. So this is all these facts, I think it is known to everyone. And just to show you how the CO2 has been increasing in the atmosphere, this is the Mauna Loa observatory. And if you see the data which has been started since 1956, the scientists are collecting, especially the CD killings, okay, Charles David killings. He started this one stations in the Hawaii Island, and then started measuring. And if you see that measurements, it is continuously increasing over the years. That is because of the all human activities and industries, basically. And then there is a CMIP 5, and nowadays it is the 6 has been, CMIP 6 has been already there are so many activities and research is going on under that. So this is a just the previous version of CMIP 6. So if you look into that, the climate change, yeah. So basically, the temperature and the precipitations has been predicted for the future, yeah. Using different scenarios, that is, yeah, representative concentration pathways. There are different pathways, RCP 2.6, RCP 8.5, and there are some. All these pathways also changed recently. Also, that is your shared, the socio-economically shared RCPs. So almost the concept is same. So here, basically, what I'm to show you is that you have the RCP scenarios for temperature and the RCP 8.5. So RCP 8.6, 8.5 scenarios is very worst scenarios, and if you see the predicted temperatures for the future, yeah, you'll find there is a huge increase in temperature in all parts of the world. And whereas in RCP 2.6, that is the lowest scenarios, and we'll find moderate increase in temperature. Similarly, in case of precipitations, there is also there is increase and decrease you will find in different parts. If you see at least over India, okay, so it has been predicted that your precipitation will increase by around 20 to 30%. Okay, so with the present conditions, we are unable to handle the flooding situations and most of the other extreme events. So in future, if this is going to be true as per the IPCC projections, then we'll have again the worst conditions related to flooding situations. So therefore, we need to be very careful on that aspects. And the numbers, you will find there are some numbers is written like 32, 39. So those numbers are basically the number of IPCC models or the climate models that has been participated, and then from that model, so these all are like ensemble calculations, like the mean conditions of all those models. So if it is like 32, then the output is it is showing that it has came from the all 32 different climate models. And then if you see here, all these type of there are four fundamental scenarios: RCP 2.6 and 4.5, RCP 6.0 and 8.5. So basically, we find different RCP scenarios. We have again the projections of temperatures for the future, like 2100 for the temperature. And then in case of sea ice extent, you will find most of the you have the mountainous the ecosystems or the cryospheres part. They have been showing that the extent of sea ice has been declining over the years, and for the future it has been declined. Although they have certain we have biases also in the calculations. And then the sea level rise has been also increasing. It is clear from all these scenarios that for the future the sea level has been increasing, which is again another kind of threat for those people living or for those cities which are very close to the your coastal belt. And then we have the this oceanic about the oceanic pH. So the oceanic pH is also it has been projected that it will be declining, so that it will be the ocean water will be getting more acidic. So the pH has been increasing as per these projections. Okay, so with this some little, because we know that this flood things, the intensity of flood is being also linked to the climate change. So therefore, I gave a little introduction onto that. So straight away, I will start some of the case studies related to flood and the extreme events. So this is one case study related to cloud burst, so which has happened in the Himalayan regions in 2013 in the Kedarnath. So we know that I think everybody remember that the Kedarnath event in 2013, and because of that so there lots of infrastructure damage and mortality has been found. So the cloud burst, so as per the definitions, we know that if the rainfall intensity at least it is more than the 10 centimeter per hour, so that kind of event we called as the cloud burst. And the cloud burst event is mostly you'll find over the Himalayan regions, especially the Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, especially those regions. So often we get those kind of cloud burst. So this is one case studies I conducted especially for the 2013 cloud burst, which has happened near to the Kedarnath in Rudraprayag district. So if you calculate the rainfall during that in the Rudraprayag districts, So the rainfall is received within few days, which is very close to like 366 millimeter, which is 580% more than the normal rainfall. Okay, so during that time, so your normal rainfall usually 54 millimeter, but it exceeded too much, and it caused massive flash flood, and subsequently it triggered the you have the landslides and debris flow and mud flow, and then lots of damage has been done by this event. This is the study area map that you can see having different districts, and this is the elevations. So the upper part of the Uttarakhand you'll find elevation is more than 4,000 meter. This is the elevation data from G top 30. And some of the stars you will find, those stars indicates these are the IMD rain gauge stations, from where one can get the rainfall data basically from the IMD stations. And then in that event, so there is a glacier outburst basically. So the glacier name is Choravari glaciers. Okay, and in that glaciers the volume of water is almost 744 million cubic meter. So, and the glaciers has been retreating. If you see some studies, so the glaciers has been retreated almost 344 meter during the 1962 to 2012, and the average rate of the glacier retreat is calculated as 6.8 meter. Okay, and because of this, since this Soraviri glacier is fed by the glacier melt and snow melt water. So this information is also quite important to link. And then it has been some studies found that glacier retreat rate is also increasing significantly in the recent decades, which is like 6 to 9 meter. So that is quite a lot. And this is the Choravari glacier lake, which is moraine damped. Basically, it is moraine damped, and this is a lake usually fed by the glaciers and the snow melt water. And then in this study, so the most of the objective of the study was actually to compare or to evaluate the satellite based rainfall estimates, so that is SBRE. So we have different products of satellite based rainfall. So we compared with the IMD data to test whether the rainfall that we get from the satellite data can be useful for any kind of models, okay, related to hydrological models for different applications. So therefore there should be we should have a good knowledge on that, and how the satellite is actually close to the we have the ground based or the gauge based IMD data. And these are the different products that we compared. So like TMPA, so that is your TRMM rainfall data, 3B42 especially. This is the product code. And then next product is CMORPH, and then third is GS map. These are the different satellite based products. And the conventional data approach is basically the IMD data, and you'll find they have different resolutions. Most of the satellite based rainfall data, they have it is not good, it is not a finer scale resolution data. So mostly we'll get 0.25 degree, because that is based on the passive microwave sensor, so that has been collected. So therefore one of the limitation of the passive microwave data is it cannot collect the signals from a smaller area, so therefore it needs the wider area. So because of that passive microwave sensors, the nature and the principle, so the resolution is one of the problems. But another aspect of good aspect is that we can get the hourly data, so that is one good aspect of that satellite. And then these are the different sensors involved to get the data. And so IMD data is one of the basic data sets that especially for India that we get, which is based on the observation data sets. So we compared in these studies all these these three types of satellite data with, and then we compared with the IMD data. These are some statistical error metrics that we have computed to evaluate the satellite data. So mostly there are many parameters are available. We only use the four things: mean absolute error, and then root mean square error, and then bias. How much is the bias? And then another is NAC. So that NAS Scutley efficiency. Which is like NSA is if the value is close to 1, actually it is your satellite or the simulated data is very close to the observations, if it is very close to one. This is the mass curve, or as well as the hydrograph has been shown based on the TRMM hourly rainfall data. So you'll find that how from the mass curve how the rainfall has been increasing, and this is shown for few days, like almost 10 days, like June 9 to June 22. So after June 17, there is not much rainfall is happened. Okay, and if you see the intensity part, which is the hydrograph, so you'll find there are some events like 11th of June and 15th, 16th. So these are the dates where extreme rainfall has happened, and consequently, you will have different other problems. Okay, like lake bursting and all. Okay. And this is the special data that if you look the different products, the first A is basically the IMD data. So that's the special, the gridded IMD data sets. You will find how the rainfall is distributed, during that period. Okay. So this is for around, I think, the sum of the cumulative rainfall over the 1 week during that event, that cloudburst event. And then the B is the another satellite products. You can see, it is GS map is overestimated. Clearly you can see, because the scales are almost same over the A and B part, and over C and D it is bit less, comparatively less than the rainfall that it has been estimated is lesser than the IMD database. Okay, other if you look the specially the TMPA, so that is TRMM data, is quite the special way it is quite has a good correlations with the IMD data sets. Otherwise, other things CMORPH and GS map is not it's not able to match with the IMD database. So that kind of observations we have seen, and this is the scatter plot if you make in terms of the R square. So with the GS map, so that is GS map is actually it's uncalibrated data sets with the gauge, the ground based gauge measurements. Okay. Because of the uncalibrated nature, so we get lower R square. Okay. That is 44. And then we have CMORPH, we got again almost similar range of R square. Okay. But there is overestimation, underestimation is happening. You can see there also. And TRMM is also it gives correlations of 0.42. Okay, again you can say also it is not that great TRMM over here in terms of the scatter plot. So this kind of analysis you can do, and then this is the comparisons of different data, especially the TNM data with respect to different stations data located in the Uttarkasi, Rudraprayag. Okay, so you'll find there is a good some days it is the intensity is also captured. For example, over Kedarnath's TRMM is giving somewhere like 105 millimeter per day, and if you see the ground-based data, it is somewhere like 122, 162, So there are some variations are there, but at least the peak is able to match with the uh, your TRM data is able to match with the you have the ground-based data. And statistical metrics, if you see, these are the different biases we get. Overall, if you see the overall all data and these matrices, so it has been concluded that since TRMM is a gauge-based data, that means it has been validated afterwards with the gauge-based data, and therefore it is better as compared to the others. It is not the best, but it's better. But over the Himalayan, what we found that it is always underestimated. TRM data is most of the time, most of the different. If you shift from other area also, you'll find some kind of underestimations of TRM data. So therefore, looking into that underestimations while doing any kind of while feeding, because most of the people also I know that this TRM data directly, if they try to put as an input parameter to different models, any kind of hydrological models, and then try to simulate flooding and forecast also flooding for the future. So therefore, keeping maybe that is good. TRM data is good over the flat terrain, okay, in other parts of areas, but over the Himalayan, so this has to be kept in mind while doing such kind of applications and the forecastings. This is your daily discharge data. This is one of the stations from the Sitapur, Gauri, located in Gaurikund. I compared simply the mean of the discharge data over 2008 to 12, almost 5 years. What is the mean 5 years? And then with respect to 2013, what happened? So we find that in most of the days, they have not that much greatly different, but a few days like 11th of June, there is a difference, clear cut difference. And then obviously on 16th, we find certain increase, that is because of uh, the blast of the you have the Choraburi glacier lakes, okay, because of blast, and suddenly all the water actually flushes out from that lake, okay. So that is related to lake burst, and therefore clearly we see that the discharge has been increased significantly. And the impacts of the flash flood, if you see over the downstream areas, mostly the downstream areas of the districts, okay, you see the Kedarnath, it is on the highly elevated areas, over northern part of the district. And then the downstream areas is mostly you'll find it's flat, okay, lower elevations. And then it's easily the water can easily goes to the downstream areas, and then causes massive flooding situations, and then different damages, okay. You'll find the how population has been affected, okay. The bigger is the round, okay, circles, red circles, more is the population affected. It is showing the how much population is affected at different villages because of the flash floods during that time. And then the subsequently, because of all these things, extreme events, cloudburst, and then your lake outburst, so all these causes also it triggered the landslides, okay, over the Mandakini river basins. You'll find this is the IRS list for data, okay. And you'll find all triangles indicates different landslides locations. You'll find since from the beginning to last along the river, you'll find many landslides locations, okay. And because of landslides, the road that is is a trekking road that is going to the Kedarnath has been affected heavily. All these those affected road has been demarcated by the yellow dots, okay. So because of landslides, so all these roads are disconnected. So that is the impacts. And also the landslides has different biological impacts also, not only the hydrological point of view. So biologically it damages lots of your forest diversity. Okay, so this is the conclusions. What overall is that so keep in mind always that while at least working over the Himalaya region, so keep in mind the limitations of the satellite-based rainfall products. Okay, most of the time it is underestimated. So that part has to be kept in mind while doing any kind of further studies. Okay. So that parts, and then why actually it is having over the Himalaya regions having some problems of the satellite based rainfall. That is best, that is because of in the it in the calculations, it is the algorithm is not taking the orographical settings that is located in the Himalaya, and also some regional factors, okay, lack of regional factors. So because that's a global based calculations or estimations, and therefore the local factors has been not been considered. So that is because of that some biases we get from the satellite data. And then we have related to that. So there are this is from some other studies from ICIMOD Kathmandu. So they have published these maps, and it has been showing that almost 20,000 glaciers lakes are actually located in the Himalaya. Okay, so out of 20,000 glacier lakes, almost 200 lakes, which is actually having the potential to burst anytime. Okay, so if it will be burst, that because 200s are critical glacier lakes, and in future we are seeing that also sometimes in 2021 also there was a one burst happened over the Uttarakhand. So I think so there's, and the climate change also it will be a critical factor again triggering all this kind of lake outburst in future also. So all these things makes the Himalayan ecosystems bit complex, and more vulnerable to the climate parts of the climate change. Okay, so next case study, it will be more focusing on the this how to do the mapping related to flood inundations, or using different data sets like optical data and the SAR data. So I assume that most of you also got some uh, flavors on remote sensing and GIS during this, because before me there are some expert may have been conducted some lectures, special lectures on remote sense GIS. Therefore, I will not tell too much basic on that related to optical data and SAR data. Wherever it's possible, I will give little introductions about the basic part of the SAR data. Basically, so the problem is using the optical data. It is very difficult to do the inundations mapping, especially the flood applications. There are some inherent problems associated with the optical data sets, that is the cloud penetration capacity. So if in the cloudy days, for example, in India during the monsoon time, so we have this kind of flooding events as well as cloud burst also. So that is during the monsoon season, and during monsoon season, so our cloud is mostly will find the atmosphere is have the cloud. Okay? And because of the cloudy issue, the wavelength that optical data is using, that is visible part, okay, blue band, green band, red bands, so they do not have capacity to penetrate into the cloud and the collect data. So because of that inheritance problem, so it cannot be useful for you cannot directly use the optical data for inundations mapping. But the modis energy data is some way, it is because it's collecting every day, and then it is try to remove cloud, and then give some kind of ready-made products, so that people can use. That is not a fine scale resolution data, that is somewhere like 250-meter resolutions regarding the modis energy. In case of SAR, it does not have that kind of problem because it is using the microwave wavelength, and therefore, so that is your microwave part. It is independent of the cloud, so it can penetrate easily and then capture the data, and that is a active sensors, and the optical is a passive sensor. So because of the your active in nature, okay, and the kind of space, the wavelength it is using, so that's easy for SAR to collect the data from the surface. You can see this figure actually. Most of the optical is using visible light and the in case of microwave. So these are the specific bands actually being utilized for capturing the data. Like you have this P band, L band, S band, C band, and the X band. Okay, so these are the some classic, okay, K band, Q band. So there are several bands are there, but most often used, those bands which are often used for hydrological studies is X band and the C band basically. And nowadays people are also, scientists are investigating, or they are trying to launch some new satellites based on the L band and S bands. So, and this bands actually gives good amount of data sets, and it has a also advantage as I discussed, and therefore it is being used. And I think this is not clearly visible, maybe this slide. Okay, basically what it is written is that like different bands like X band, Q band, C band, S band, and then what is the relevant applications in the right side, where which area you can use. So the C band, you can remember that. So the wavelength of the C band is around 5 to 6 centimeter. Okay, and the C band is also the ISRO actually has launched somewhere in 2012, one SAR data, SAR based spaceborne data, which is called RESAT. So RESAT has this C band data, and radar sat also, many radar sat data. So also has using the C band or as well as the X band. So, and then the Japanese satellite, so they have the L band data, so they provide the data in there. So as like L band, the you see the wavelength is around 15 to 30 centimeter. S band is around 7.5 to 15 centimeters. So the longer the wavelength is increasing, like L towards L and S, the penetration capacity of the SAR is better. Okay, it can penetrate more into the ground and give better informations. The C band data is also heavily used for the flood mapping as well as soil moisture part. Okay, because many of the satellites, the current ongoing satellites, they have the C, either C or L, and because of that, people are using trying to explore that kind of bands for different applications. And then to understand all these flood related studies, we need to understand some basic concepts related to polarizations and the scattering mechanisms of the SAR data. Okay, so the radar data collects different polarizations by controlling the analyzed polarizations in both transmit and receive path. Because in SAR data we have the antenna that actually transmits the energy, and then it collects the backscatter energy basically that is coming from the surface. Okay, so the antenna can receive different polarizations. It can send signals in different polarizations and receives different polarizations. So polarization basically refers to the orientations of the plane in which the transmitted electromagnetic wave oscillates. And while the orientation can occur at any angles, the SAR sensors typically transmit linearly polarized, that is horizontal polarizations, and then there is a second one is called vertical polarizations. So the horizontal polarizations is indicated by the letter S, and vertical is indicated by the letter V. And why we are using different polarization is that if you explore different polarized data, we'll have different information content. The information content is different at different polarizations. So we'll try to understand better way. Like if you see the scattering mechanisms of SAR, the signals is emitted. It could be by vertically as well as horizontal. It can be done. So if it is emitted vertically and received horizontal, that means the backscatter is energy. The energy is captured in the terms of horizontal polarizations. That can be indicated as VH. Okay, so V stands for then that is your that is transmitted, and then H is for received. Similarly, HS, that is the signal is transmitted via horizontal polarizations and received also in horizontal. Okay, that is HS. Similarly, you can find VV. Okay, so VV is like vertically it is transmitted and again received vertically. So like different combinations you will find, and with different combinations it gives different information content. Therefore we have to know actually at what polarizations, what kind of that is related to your scattering mechanisms, it gives maximum information so that it is useful for your particular studies. For example, VV. Okay, so in case of VV, so that if you are using the VV polarizations, that is very good for the at least the flood studies. Okay, to capture the all the flood pixels wherever there is a flood, you will find the flood water in the surface. That's well captured by the VV polarization. So therefore each polarization have the different applications. To going into more, there are three different scattering mechanisms. They are called rough surface, volume surface, and double bouncing. Okay, so we'll see one example of that, a schematic diagram for the rough surface. You'll find the first the blue things. Okay, so that is how the scattering mechanism happening. That is the backscatter energy that is transmitted, or sorry, it is sent to the antenna. So that is, you can see how it is transmitting mostly from the water surface, bare soils. There is a rough surface scattering is happening. And if there is a if that your transmitted energy is hitting to the ground that is covered by the trees or any kind of shrubs, you'll mostly see it's a volume scattering. Okay, because all this scattering, okay, that is, you see it is penetrating signal, and then signal is actually going from the entire tree. It is bouncing from the entire tree. So therefore it is called the volume scattering. And in case of double bounce, the signal will actually hit to the ground, and then again it will hit to the buildings, the nearby buildings. So that is mostly happening in the urban areas. So from the urban areas you will have the double bouncing. And then from the forest area, agriculture areas, it's volume. And then you have the from bare cells and the water part, it is the rough surface scattering. Okay, so as I told you, the rough surface scattering is mostly from that part. Okay, bare soil and the related to water. You see that in this case, your VV is polarization is most sensitive for this types of land use land covers. Okay, therefore VV scattering, I told that for hydrological studies or the flood related mapping, VV has been often used. And for the volume scattering, mostly it is from the forest canopies and branches. Okay, and therefore here the VH or HV, okay, any kind of that is called cross polarizations. Okay, VH, or then you just reverse it, HV. So cross polarizations can be more useful for this forest related studies. And then the VV or HH, so that is basically the co-polarizations. It is mostly called co-polarizations. And in case of double bounce, mostly it is you'll find from the urban areas or the built-up setup. And for that, so HH polarized is most sensitive for the double bounce. Therefore, for related to urban studies, so HH can be more useful than the other scattering. And then with respect to penetrations capacity, so you see the X bands, the wavelength is almost 3 centimeter, and then C band is 6 centimeter. And L and S, P band, they have the more penetration capacity. So you see those X and C bands, it is not reaching until the ground. Okay, it is transmitted from the canopy itself, because those signals, it is very difficult to go inside the surface. But therefore L band is much more useful, because it can reach to few centimeter below ground, the surface. And therefore for soil moisture part studies, the L band is more useful, and as well as the P band. But sometimes there are limitations that we don't get the L band data, space borne data, and although it is available, you have to pay it, especially the LOS, the Japanese satellite, that LOS, they have L band, and but those data are very costly to purchase. But compared to that, many, you'll find most of the research publications are related to either X and C band, that is radarsat data and the sentinel data. Nowadays sentinel data, so they are the free data. Therefore most of the applications you can see, hydrological soil moistures or any kind of applications, are mostly from those bands, and less from the L and P band. Although there is more potentials of L band and P band than the X and C. Okay, and then there is another things, they are called different these combinations. They are based on that combinations, we have single polarization data, HHVV. That is the Sentinel-1. So Sentinel-1 is a free of cost. This data is available. That is the C band data, Sentinel-1, and they have this HH, VH, those kind of polarization data you can get free of cost, and then you can do some applications. And then dual polarization data. This is HS plus SP, VB plus BS. They are called dual polarization data. And there is also quad polarization data. And then RESAT-1 is one of the Indian SAR data. So they have this compact polarimetric. I will not go into details that CP part, because if you have this full polarimetric options and this compact polarimetric, okay, we have also do some other more applications related to your the scattering matrix. So using the scattering matrix, we can do like the decomposition part, the scattering. Okay, how we can decompose the different the scattering matrix. So that is FDP Freeman, that decomposition techniques. Lots of decomposition techniques are available, and those also has different applications. So maybe I will not touch to that, but problem is that the full polarimetric data, sometimes it's not, it's very difficult to get the full polarimetric data, and therefore there are some limitations into it. Okay, so coming to some case studies, especially the case studies that I would like to discuss about the North Bihar, that is Kosi and Gandhak river basins, because this is the part of the project, Nizar project, using the SAC ISRO, Ahmedabad ISRO. So under that project, some of the studies has been conducted that I would like to show some of the results. This is the basins, that red boundary, we see the boundary of the basin, Kosi and Gandhak river basin. And mostly that basins, the downstream areas over here is mostly the North Bihar. Okay, so therefore the North Bihar is mostly, if somebody is from Bihar, some participants, that is very prone to the flooding conditions. Every year you will have 1 or 2 times floods in the North Bihar. That's because of this. The locations is in downstream. These are the different data one can use for doing that kind of studies. We have the Sentinel-1 here. The temporal resolution, that's your revisit time of the Sentinel-1 C band is 12 days. and the spatial resolution is good, comparatively good, that is your 10 meter. And then MODIS NRT, which has 250 meter resolution. So if you compare MODIS NRT and Sentinel 1A, you see the huge differences in spatial resolutions. And then some additional data like rainfall data from TRMM, okay, and then DM digital elevation model. DM data also very useful for hydrological studies, and all rainfall stations, your hydrographs. All these are very useful for any kind of flood related studies. All this data has been investigated for doing these studies. This you see here, rainfall map from the TRMM. I'll show you the example of flood, in 2017, that is occurred in the North Bihar, and every year is happening, but we have taken as a case study as a 2017 flood events. So you will have a huge amount of rainfall. The legends is not good, actually, not visible, and you see the temporal, like every day 10 to 12, 2 days interval, how the rainfall is varying. Okay, so mostly you'll have, if you have higher rainfall in the upper stream, okay, then definitely it causes the flood in the downstream areas. This is a clear image you can see here. This is a weekly rainfall of TRMM. Okay, so you see here, the first week of August is a relative lower rainfall until 200 millimeter, although, but more than 200 millimeter you get. It has been observed over the second week of the August, that's 18 to 14 August. And that causes actually flood subsequent days. Again, these are the after 15 to 21, the third week of the August, and then fourth week. So slowly, you see the regressions of the rainfall, that is not rainfall happening afterwards. Okay. But the initial days rainfall, that is the first and second week of August, from the mass curve also you can see the huge rainfall, and afterwards not much rainfall. So this is based on the some data from the IMD based stations, okay, located in Khagaria, different Hayagat, different locations in the North Bihar basically. This is the NRT flood related product. So NRT flood data, so it is a ready-made product of flood. You can see where is the flood is happening. Okay, so you see 13, 14 August, there are some flood is appearing in somewhere, different districts like Katihar, and Darbhanga, those kind of districts, and then slowly it is expanding, and then towards 20 through 24 August, it's much more area has been under the flood. And then if you compare the opticals, so you see in the left side, that is the SAR derived the flood map. Okay, so we have the different flood pixels. You see many districts, Muzafar, like Darbhanga, most of the areas are flooded. And the same area, if you look over using the optical, so you see the flooded area, but the data has been all cloud pixels you can see here. So because of the clouds, it is very difficult to work using the optical data. Okay, the automatic algorithms of remote sensing, any kind of machine learning techniques, you cannot apply in the optical to get good results. Whereas in SAR data, you see very clear cut flood inundation pixels. So that's the advantage of having the SAR data with respect to optical. Here also, these comparisons down you will find 23 August is the peak flood actually timing. So therefore, I have showing only for that date. That is based on the SAR data, lower one, and then the first is optical data, Landsat 8, OLI sensors. Again, you will see the huge amount of cloud, and then B is MODIS related NRT data. Okay? You'll find there is a good matching of the pattern of flood. Although SAR data is having high resolution and it gives better output than the MODIS NRT data. So that means the meaning is that over here MODIS NRT data can be also useful, but it is mostly it could be sometimes overestimated, because the pixels, for example, the pixel size is 250 meter. Maybe entire 250 meter pixel is not inundated, but it will be counted in MODIS. So that is one limitations over there. But it is always better, recommended that for flood related studies, you should try to use the SAR data better, okay, because that will give more accurate than the obviously from NRT data as well as from the optical data. Optical data you cannot do, only you can actually visualize. Only that is the purpose of showing here. And then you can calculate, you can quantitative informations you can generate. We have different inundation area, like with respect to different dates, what is the how much area has been inundated. Okay, the total area like 2.6% is, if you see the percentage of entire North Bihar, so this is not great. Okay, this figure looks very smaller. But if you look to the district wise, the figure will be dramatically increased significantly. Okay, so since we are taking the percentage from entire area, so that therefore it is looks very small numbers. Okay, the area, although if you see the area, it is a more than 1,000 square kilometer has been inundated. The district wise also you can calculate what is the inundated area. Mostly you will find the Kathiawar and Darbhanga. Okay, so they are the most heavily affected, adversely affected districts. The water level also you can try to link with your flood maps and the rainfall data. You see the water level has been increasing as the rainfall is increasing, or the or it is approaching towards the peak flood dates. The water level that has been increasing, and those water level data you can get from the CWC. There are different stations located, and you can easily get those data. And also, you can link with we have the highest flood level and danger level. What is the danger level and HFL level, and how much water level has been actually observed during the flood time. You can compare that. Okay, so that gives some very good quantitative evaluations of your studies. Okay, at different stations we have compared, and we have seen that wherever there is a bold, the numbers indicated by bold, so they have actually crossed the danger level at least. Flood inundation area, if you see date wise, this is for a particular district. As I told you, if you do calculations, quantitative calculations for particular district, not for entire North Bihar, so you'll find the bigger numbers. Okay, like 16%, 17% of the area has been flooded, which is a very significant area being flooded due to the you have this heavy rainfall and the flooding. This is so specifically, if you see the Darbhanga district, just there is a case study on the Darbhanga districts, and it is being heavily impacted by the floods. That is because Darbhanga district is over the districts, there different rivers are actually crossing. You see in the eastern part of the district, there is a Kosi river, that is passing, and then Kamla river again passing from the middle part of the district, and then in the western side, Bagmati and Budi Gandak. So different rivers are actually, and then actually because of all these rivers, okay, they take the full amount of water during the flooding seasons, and then actually they try to inundate the nearby areas, and that's why the problem. Okay, so this district is very prone to the flooding conditions, and then people, the socio-economical conditions of the people living there is heavily affected, and even the agriculture areas are heavily affected by this kind of flooding events. This is the processing part I'd like to show you. So right side is basically how you can get the LULC, that is land use land cover map, from the Sentinel-2A. Sentinel-2A is optical data, so it is very easy to get from Sentinel-2 LULC. And then you have the TRMM rainfall. So the methods you have the processing part of this rainfall and LULC is not that difficult. It's very easy. Similarly, the MODIS NRT, you can also, it is very easy to do the processing. Only the left part, that is Sentinel-1A, so that is your SAR data, it needs some kind of processing, pre-processing of satellite data before getting the flood pixels or the flood maps. So those pre-processing is, one has to learn how to do that. So one is the radar data calibration. So you have to calibrate your SAR signals, and then second, you have to do the speckle filtering, because lots of noises, background noises, you will find in the SAR data, and that filtering you have to do. So there are different filtering techniques, leaf filter, refined leaf filter, so many techniques are there to remove such kind of background noise. And then geometric corrections. So that is terrain corrections one has to do. That is the geometrical corrections actually one has to do. And then binaries. This is one method, like to get separate the flood pixels from the land part, which is basically non-flooded. Okay, one can separate those flood pixels and then land pixels using the binarization techniques. And then you separated it out, and then you say that this is my inundated flood maps. Okay, and then you compare with your LULC map, and then try to evaluate how much flood has been affected to the settlement, built up areas, agriculture areas. So this is the overall the flow charts that is showing how you can get some specific results by following these kind of steps one by one. Okay, this is the LULC map. So mostly what we found is most North Bihar is entire North Bihar is this is agriculture dominant area. Most of the people do agriculture, and very less area is under forests. Okay. So this is the showing the LULC maps, and then the purpose of showing this map is we are trying to actually evaluate the effect of flood, okay, on different land use and land cover, especially build up and the agriculture. And then SAR data processing. So I would like to know how much time is left now, because I cannot see the timing part.
Dr. Parida, 1 hour of the session, almost 1 hour of the session is left, and you can please decide how much time will it take to interact with the participants.
Okay. So that means it is now 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, it is 1 o'clock right now.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah, accordingly I will manage so how fast I can do. So I don't know whether I'm going fast or the speed is all right.
No, it is perfect for me.
Okay, then it should be perfect for others because most of them are faculty, so it is very easy to track it. Okay, good. So regarding the processing of the SAR data, so what we have to do is we get those basically the data in a slant range. So that is the SAR brightness data, which is called the beta naught. Okay, so that is the slant range data we get directly from the SAR data, and to work, basically to work better. Okay, so basically we convert slant range data to the ground range again. So regarding the slant range and ground range, so this is again another theory, so I am not going to details about that, but basically what you get is from SAR data, it is a side looking complex SLC data. Okay, so SLC is always look in the it is a side looking, therefore it is called side looking. So therefore it is always, it gives the data in terms of slant range. Okay, and the slant range data has been converted to ground range, and these are the following formulas are applied. That is sigma naught equal to UF beta naught into the sine alpha. That is alpha is basically the incidence angle of the SAR, and therefore the incidence angle is very useful. That incidence angle data we can get from the metadata, and then we compute the sigma naught. Okay, so in terms of decibels, okay, sigma naught is calculated in decibel by using the logarithmic scales, that is 10 into log 10 into the sigma naught. Okay, and then you get why we are actually converting to logarithm scale is because the signals that we get using this microwave is very small, so therefore we have to look into a logarithm scales. Okay, and most of these numbers we get that is called the sigma naught in decibels, they are all negative numbers. Okay, like -10, -12, -14, like this number. So that is the range basically. So the data is we converted to, so that is, this is the radar calibrations that we do. So after radar calibrations, next is the basically the filtering. So here I have used the refined Lee speckle filter, okay, to remove the background noise. And then you do the terrain corrections. Afterwards, you can start analyzing all kind of data. Okay, so this is the analyzed data that we computed the inundations pixels again for 2017. So left side is again it is modis based, and the right side is an SAR based. Okay. There are lots of inundations map you can actually using that. I'm not showing more figures into that, but the inundation map flood pixels clearly you can extract using the binaries methods. Okay. Maybe I will also discuss under this category like flood water depth modeling in Kosi River. Okay, so now I'm trying to focus towards the Kosi River, towards the depth, and before calculating the flood water depth, we need the inundation. So the inundation part I will discuss it more over this part. This is the Kosi River. You see, because of all this kind of every year flooding, so over the government over the Bihar is also creating the bond around the river, okay, around the Kosi River. So there is west bond, east bond, so because there is kind of, I think over there people call it as bandh, okay, so that they can actually protect the water passing from river to the agriculture fields. Okay, so there are lots of that is ongoing constructions happening since year 2000. So that is because it's a very huge area and you cannot easily do it within short time. So it takes more time. So whatever the bond has been so far, it exists until 2017. So we have shown over here. This is the LULC map of the you have this Kosi River. Okay, we'll have all this agriculture forest pieces. Again, here you see mostly what agriculture is the dominant LULC classes for this. And the Kosi River is passing over the especially the Supal district and Saharsa and then Khagaria, and then over near to Bhagalpur it actually merges with the Ganga River. Okay, so over down, just over down, so that is the purple, yeah, just North Bihar. So you'll have the Ganga River is passing through. I think it is not visible clearly. It has been also shown, yeah, the river course, under the river course, and the Kosi has been merged in the near to the Kathiar and the Bhagalpur areas. Okay. The data has been used like Sentinel-1 here. That is a 12 days data. Every 12 days you will get. Okay, the temporal period is not great because if you want to monitor within a day how the water is progressing, flood water. So this data is not useful because you will get again next data sets after 12 days. Okay, so therefore the temporal data set or the monitoring flood within 24 hours, it's very difficult using one-time data sets. For flood depth estimations, you have to use the high resolution DM, okay, digital elevations model. So far, the ELOS Pulsar, okay, they give 12.5 meter. Most of the people uses earlier SRTM, the CATO sets has been used. Sometimes high resolution CATO set, that is Indian product, is not available. So you have to purchase stereo pairs, and then you generate which may give until 2.5 meter, but you have to purchase that part. So we have and we have here used 12.5 meter for calculations. Okay. There is another data set available at 8 meter only over the Himalaya regions. Okay, therefore it was only halfly covered until the Kosi basins, until some parts of northern Bihar. So it is not giving complete area. So therefore I didn't use that 8 meter. But you will, if you explore, you will get 8 meter or even free of cost. Okay, especially for the Himalayan part. And this is the SAR data. You see, this is the RGB that we have shown, the SAR data, C-band data. You see what you will see basically. You see all this the blue color, your darker blue color patches. Mostly they are the inundated part. Okay, so the inundated part is mostly clearly visible from the C-band data. So therefore, it makes easier to do binaries, which pixel is flood, which is not flood. Okay, so very easy, you can do that, and then you can get the flood pixels. To calculate the flood water depth, so first we should have the input data set as a inundation map. If you do not have inundation map, then you cannot get the flood. What is the depth during the flood? Okay, so that part we cannot calculate. So therefore, first we need to calculate the inundation part. The method is over here. We have used the VV polarizations, as I told just now, that VV is mostly very effective for the flood kind of studies. So therefore, minus 14 dB is the critical threshold that we have taken. Okay, above minus 14 dB, so all pixels mostly refer to the flood pixels. So using that, so simply we calculated the inundations, and then we used DM data, and then we fed that model. Okay, so there is FWDET model, which is free of cost, written in Python. Okay, so that model is available. That is, you can plug that small module into the ArcGIS software. Okay, and then also you can also work, and then it will run in a Python mode. Okay, so little Python knowledge with ArcGIS plugin, it should work. And if you have that model, you simply put two input parameters, like one is in inundation map for a particular date, and then the DM data. Okay, higher the resolution DM data, better will be the depth output, the accuracy of that. Okay, and then you get the flood duration map, flood depth map. These all things can be calculated. And then backscatter analysis also can be done. So we have done some analysis. Let's see some of the results. This is the FWDET model, methodology framework. As I told you, these are the polygons. These are the main two input parameters you have to fit, and based on the statistical analysis. So basically, a focal statistics loop. Okay, so the focal statistic loop. So that means it will try to find in a particular area, okay, smaller area, which pixel is inundated and what is the nearest pixel to that which is not inundated. Okay, based on that concept, actually the flood depth has been calculated. Okay, so that means the critical thing is DM. So DM has been used, and then your inundation is used, and then focal statistics. Okay, there's a looping program that try to find out which is inundated, which is not inundated, and what is their elevations values, and based on that, and some low pass filtering and all, they have been applied. So details you can refer to this paper, Cohen et al. 2017. They have detail explained how to do one by one, okay, step by step, for getting the flood water depth. Okay, so this is the flood water depth, the result we get. You see mostly until 1 meter depth. So during the flooding over North Bihar, mostly always the water level is until either 0.5 meter or 1 meter. Okay, there are very less areas where it shows more than 1 meter, or some extreme case like 2 meter flood depth. Okay, so 2 meter flood depth is quite huge, and it will definitely it will affect your urban areas and all houses and all these infrastructures. Okay, you will find and these are the areas that you see that different districts, okay, which are the areas that has been prone to all this kind of flooding, as well as how much depth at what part you can see over there. Just to have a look into the okay, so I think this is also a flood water depth, but this is for another date actually. So this one is for peak conditions like 23 August, and then you have the recessions, after few days, 10, 15 days. This is the flood water depth. So mostly you'll find the area will be declining as there is a flood is receding. And then this flood water depth over the different districts. So you see the Darbhanga districts, and then we have the Khagaria and all this Muzaffar districts. You'll find Sahasra, where the coast is passing through. So Darbhanga is out of all these four, you'll find Darbhanga has been have the flood water depth heavily until 1 meter. Okay, that's quite a lot, 1 meter. So if you see the histogram, all this how much area has been affected under what kind of depth, what you will find is around 1000 to 1100 square kilometer of area. That much of water having the flood water depth of either 0.5 meter or until 1 meter. Okay, more than 1 meter you will find less area. Okay, you see as the depth has been increasing, the area under that is also declining. Okay, this is for the 23 August, the first, okay, the first grouping, and the second group is for 4th September. That is clearly you see the receding nature of the flood, and then afterwards 16th September again the less part. That means the water is being slowly declining, and your depth or the flooding condition has been declining over the time. These are the some field photos you can see. I also went after flood. After 1 month, actually, I went to get some data, because during flood it's very difficult and to access different areas and transportations problems. So therefore, it is safe to have conduct a field work after 1 month. After 1 month, you will also find there are many areas which has been still inundated. Okay, so we have taken some measurements, and then we try to take with the tape. Okay, simple tape. So how much is the water has been inundated, and also we visited different like 4-5 days we do intensive field work, and then also different the CWC, and also you find this kind of standard the water level. Okay, you can also note down that how much is the water level, and then in your analysis try to see how to connect all these kind of data sets, okay, ancillary data sets. And this is the comparisons of the model depth with respect to field based that we collected. So what we see here is we have this the blue curve is taken model depth we have computed using that model is for 23rd of August. Okay, and then also we computed after 1 month, that is 16th September, because we done a field work near to the 16th September. Okay, since we have done after 1 month, so we just try to evaluate at least for 16th September. Okay, after 1 month of flood, how our data is, the model calculation is capturing our the field based data sets. Okay, the black curve, it is the observed data sets. Okay, that is just after 1 month. So you can see it is the signal is or the pattern we get is it is closely it is going and up and down. It is closely matching with the 16, but not with the the peak flood. Okay, because if you go if you collect the data during the peak flood, that will be great, but that is a kind of advantage one has to do. Okay, so impacts of flood on the LULC. So you can overlay all these flood maps on the LULC map, and then you can see what kind of underlying the land use land cover has been affected heavily because of the flood. And then you can do quantitative estimations like district wise. You will see if only over the Kosi basins, the 17% of the area has been affected by the flood. Okay, and out of that, the Darbhanga contribute 4.5%. Okay, that's too much. Okay, so that much of area has been affected, and total area is around 3,000, more than 3,000 square kilometers. So always in the paper that quantitative informations are always required, and therefore these things, this way you can also compute that. Flood water duration. So duration is another way to calculate like how many in a single area, in a single part. Okay, how many days the water remains over there. Okay, so that means you have to use more temporal resolution SAR data, okay, to calculate the durations. It looks very easy, but calculations needs 3-4 data sets. That means your temporal resolution every 12 days you will be getting. So the duration either you will get at 12 days, 24 days, 36 days, so on. Okay, so that's the limitation of that. So over here what we found is most of the pixels are having a 12 to 14 days durations. Okay, so it could be like 20 days for 24 days, and some pixels will be more than 24 days, but it needs some additional data set. Therefore we didn't use that, and because of that we have restricted only 24 days. But there is a huge chance that also more than 30 days the water is still there or stagnated in a particular area. Okay, such kind of duration maps is also very important for the after assessment, after the flood happened, the assessment. And then you have the different government supply and chain. So those kind of to help the people, and the insurance for giving the insurance coverage, all these things are very useful. And therefore this kind of duration map also will be much more helpful for the policy maker point of view. This is the duration map, the district wise. You can see there are if you look into the more higher resolutions way, you'll find many pixels areas are still the water has been stagnated over the 24 days. And there are some actually the river course also showing the 24 days. That is obviously okay. While in the making the maps, it is better to mask that out, or to put as a permanent water body, so that the red will be removed. But somehow we have not actually removed that. So otherwise that is the minor part. That is understood that the river will always have the water, okay, throughout the years mostly. And then flood frequency, we have also calculated the flood frequency using the data, okay, the flooding data based on the SAR over the 6 years, okay, 2015 to 2020. And then the intention over here is we try to see a particular pixels or the area, how many times actually the flood is actually it is experiencing the flooding situations. Okay, we'll find most of this all these prone areas mostly that we have seen this kind of result also. 5 to 6 times they have that means every year. So that 5 to 6 years means every year it is having the flood. Okay, and there's some minor some areas, okay, frequency of 1 or 2 is it is scattered over the entire study area. Okay, so this kind of frequency map is also useful for the long term monitoring or the long term planning for the hydrological point of view, to monitor the floods, and to actually minimize such kind of the damage point of view. Okay, so that this kind of map is also is very useful. And then similarly the risk map, if you can create also the risk map, that is called the flood risk map, so that is also useful for the policy makers. So we have created risk map low to high. You will find again the similar high areas is red areas, always it is where we have seen the frequency is high. Okay, and for getting the risk map, so we have applied the ASP techniques. Okay, that's the standard techniques everybody apply, ASP with different input data sets, rainfall, and then inundation map, durations, and many data sets has been used actually as input to the ASP, and based on the weightage factor. So this is the output of that. The conclusions to give you a little bit on these conclusions, whatever so far we have concluded, studied this SAR data is most useful, at least the VV polarizations for the flood studies, and for flood related depth estimations one can use different tools. This is one of the tool, FWDET, and also there are several satellite based tools is also available, one can actually use. Okay, so I'll show you one paper where you can have lots of literature has been given over there to calculate the flood water depth using some other method also. Okay, other method means other models or the tools. And similarly, there is also hydrological standard hydrological models always available, one can also use that. HECRAS, and HECRAS is nowadays it is also taking some GIS data sets and can be used in a ArcGIS platform. Okay, and the mic is it is not that very easy, like there are some input data sets we can also use the mic. Okay, so many people are also using mic model for doing the flood modeling as well as forecasting. But that is so a costly software, so the mic is therefore not many people able to use that software. Okay, but HECRAS is, I think, this open source, one can use that. There's a small part related to soil moisture modeling. With that, I will conclude the how we can apply the SAR data actually for doing the soil related studies. Okay, soil moisture modeling. Well, so for soil moisture part, many people are working. So there are various models actually. Since 90s, many people are trying to do all these things, calculations. Various models has been generated. Mostly they are categorized into various physical models. So like IEC, and then there is empirical models, O models. And then semi-empirical. So mostly it is known for well known for as a Du Bois model, or sometimes called modified Du Bois model. And then also the water cloud models are also being used for the estimating the surface soil moistures. Okay, and the surface soil moisture is very important parameter for agriculture point of view and water management point of view, irrigations point of view. So therefore, so this data is kind of a standard data, especially the SAR data. As I told you that moisture estimations using optical is not easy, it's very difficult, also not that accurate. So therefore, the SAR data is always recommended, that too L band. Okay, C band is also give, but L band data is much more better than the C band. So this is a study, ongoing study, actually not published yet from me. So this is I'm doing right now, and this is the small part how you can calculate. So this is the sigma naught of VP polarization. So VP polarization also more important to calculate the soil moisture. This is the semi empirical model, so you can use these equations to calculate the sigma naught of VP, and then the relative soil permittivity, okay, and the surface roughness. So these are the two parameters has been you'll find in that equations, and one has to calculate that soil permittivity. Again, soil permittivity can be calculated from the SAR. So you see, wherever the VP polarizations, other things are constant, like A, C, B, they are the constant. Only the VP polarizations that is coming from the SAR. Okay, so from SAR data you can calculate that surface roughness. So surface roughness, either you have to conduct a field work. Okay, from the field-based method, many people calculate the surface roughness, and then you apply that surface roughness. And this is the TOPS models. MV. So based on the TOPS model, so this is the standard TOPS model has been used, and to calculate the soil moisture. Okay, so we try to use all these procedures to calculate that, and we also we have conducted some field works about the North Bihar, and we have used this the TDR 300. Okay, the field spec, the field scout over here. TDR 300, there are different models. So this is a moisture meter that I have, so I have used this data for collecting the soil moisture data, especially from the ground based. So that means the idea behind is that I am trying to calculate the moistures from the model, as well as that is basically from SAR. I've been taking the help, as well as taking to establish the relationship, what is the accuracy that I get. So I have to make a field visits and then collect the field based data to make a correlations. Okay, so you can see you're plotting that you do 10 by 10 plots, and then you take random random measurements, and then you take the mean of that, and that mean will give one sample locations. Okay, the moisture for a one. So don't calculate only single measurement for one sample. Okay, like 10 by 10, so we have one sample 10 by 10 meter, and then among that, so I took almost 15 random points. Okay, and then the mean of 15 is the one measurement for each sample. So that's the idea of that for collecting the okay. So here we are showing the relationship between VV with respect to surface roughness. Okay, surface roughness conducted based on the field work. So we try to compare those, and we find a good correlations between the VB and the surface roughness, which is R square is 0.72. The yellow things is, I think it is a predicted bound, okay, and the blue is like a 95% confidence interval. This is the model soil moistures, okay. We computed for the recent dates like February 2021. So you see, mostly the Kosi mega fan. You see the Kosi river, and then eastern part of the Kosi river, that is it is known as Kosi mega fan. So over the Kosi mega fan, so we found it is more moisture. So that is because of the if you see the history of the Kosi mega fan, it is mostly you'll find the paleo channels, okay. So because of paleo channels and lots of drainage and lots of underlying the channels, okay, so it has the capacity to hold the more moisture. So therefore the highest moistures we get over the Kosi mega fan. Otherwise other parts very smaller patches we get highest. Otherwise it is very less soil moisture, okay. Mostly you can say a low to moderate amount, but that is something over the mega fan, we say we are able to capture very high amount of moistures from the SAR based data. And this is the comparisons between, you have the TDR. So in the x-axis I have the TDR based moisture. So I think almost 56 samples I have collected over these all areas, and then compared to the satellite based, we get very good correlations, that is 0.77, okay. Okay, so whatever the materials that I covered in this presentations, these are the papers that has been you can refer to these papers, and I will also share these slides, so you can also have these slides and you can refer that if you need some help from the slides. So that will be available. So I will give to the host, okay, they can circulate it. And these are the papers from where all this information has been I have shown you from these papers, okay. And also another 2 more papers. So the first one is SAR based, okay, with LULC impacts and how the inundation is affecting the agriculture part. The fourth, this paper is related to, it is in Geocarto International. You will have related to flood water depth, okay. So in this paper, you will find lots of tools, other options, or other hydrological models that can be useful for doing this depth part calculation. So we have also, there is ongoing this in the Niger project, okay. So Niger project is L&S band. So I think 2022 they are planning for launching the spaceborne data that will have L&S band, so that it's available free of cost. So I was part of that project, and in that project also I have one objective to calculate the sediment part also during the flooding situations, how much sediments is actually moving along the water. So I was having that kind of objectives, but I found linking or with the help of satellite data, calculating sediment is not that useful. So that's ongoing work is happening, it's going on. There is no, I cannot share any output of that because it is a very initial stage. Okay, so with that, so I'll conclude, and now the floor will be for discussion part. And this is my email ID, so you can note down, and for future any kind of query, so or any help if you need from my side, so I think you can contact in this email ID. So with this, so I conclude. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parida, for the wonderful talk. You covered a lot of different case studies, mainly related to the application part, from which I hope the audience of this FDP have learned a lot. Okay, so now I will request the participants now to please unmute yourself and interact with Dr. Parida. So I've allowed the mics, so you can please unmute your mics, and you can ask your queries to Dr. Parida.
If you have any questions, please If you have later on also you have questions, you can also contact me. That's not a issue.
Yeah, I think Dr. Parida, they usually take a couple of minutes to before they type in their queries. So I think we can
Yeah,
wait
in,
for 1 or 2 minutes.
yeah, sure, sure. I'll wait. In online also that happens, okay? Because
Yeah.
I also participated in many of these things, and I don't usually ask questions, so it
Yeah.
happens sometimes. Yeah,
Mhm.
not
There
an
were a
issue.
few points of discussions from my side.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I was interested in knowing that if is there any data portal that in which we can get the flood water depths from the flood events? Is there any data portal available?
Yeah, there is a nice questions actually related to flood water depth. Yeah, this is I think over India. This is the first studies that I conducted. Okay, so before
Okay.
that, nobody has computed flood water depth over any of the basins, river basins in India. So therefore, there is no database, nothing, and this is the first study I will tell you.
Okay. So the validation part was done using the own field data collection.
Yes, yes, and that too after post flood, after 1 month.
Okay.
But similar studies has been there in over Sri Lanka. There is one paper from Sri Lanka, few papers from some river basins from America. So like there's page by page, very few. I can say 6 to 7 studies on flood water depth across the entire world. Yeah, that has been happened so far. So therefore, this is very initial stage of this that domain. Not many people has explored because many people go until the flood mapping and then effects and some kind of forecasting of floods and then they stop over there. Okay, they don't go beyond depth calculations and other things. So therefore
Mhm.
this is a new emerging topic, so one can actually do more studies onto it.
So any particular things that we have to keep in mind while deciding the locations of the ground samples of flood water depth?
Regarding, I think so that depends on the study area. So I think you have to select those regions where that area is flooded often, maybe 1 time or 2 times. So I think this Kosi river basin or the northern Bihar, this is in India, this is one of the classical area where 2 to 3 times flood is happening yearly.
Mhm.
If somebody is from that part, so they know that. So this is very problem over there, and therefore though the local socio-economic condition of people are actually heavily affected, because therefore it is called the Sora of river. I think everybody knows that
Mhm.
Kosi is a Sora of river. Similarly, I think other area also, like I know that Mahanadi river basin also, they have also have frequent floodings, and Brahmaputra. So second classical example would be the Brahmaputra basin. Okay, so Brahmaputra basin also have flooding mostly most of the time, and they have actually have a ecological effects, especially the Kaziranga National Park. So the animals or the national parks, birds and animals living there, they are heavily actually influenced by the such kind of annual flooding situations. And the Majuli Island nearby also, that area, that also has the effect. So I think there is many areas you will find in India that these kind of studies can be conducted in future.
Right. And any particular way that you've figured out to find out the actual depth of flood water at the time of the flooding actually took place?
Yes, I will give you some clues. Mostly you
Okay.
have to, because you cannot go to the field at that time, right? It's very
Mhm.
dangerous.
Mhm.
So alternative way to get the field data is to use the Twitter. Many people tweets actually in this area, Darbhanga or some particular Patna. So somebody tweets that is 1.5 feet, 2 feet water depth. So those tweets can
Mhm.
be used. But if you know the geographical location coordinates, that will be better. But that
Mhm.
Twitter data also can be used as an ancillary database for supporting your this kind of study. But always better, if you can directly visit. If somebody of your friends are there, so what I did is, some of my students are from Patna and Bihar. So I told that you take the bike and go there and take with a one tape, simple tape, and simply go there and try to get different coordinates with the help of GPS. Take the coordinates and take the depth, and then they
Mhm.
supplied, like 2 or 3 students helped me, and they supplied many data sets during the flood. So that is another way you can manage.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for your answers, sir. So I request the audience as well, the participants as well, to please unmute themselves or raise your hands or put your queries in the chat box. So in the meanwhile, there are a few queries during when you were going through your presentation. There are a few queries in the chat box.
Okay.
So the first one is from Mr. Ganesh Bhatt, who is asking which microwave band is most suitable for imaging flood-affected regions.
Microwave bands. Okay. So the better is the L band. Okay. And the L band you will get from the pulsar data, that is JAXA, that is Japanese Aerospace Agency. They provide L band SAR data. That is much more useful, but you have to purchase those data. That is not free of cost. And
I
if
think
you want to,
I think, sir, they are providing some of the earlier data free of cost. Some of the earlier, some old data, I think they are now providing.
yeah, those samples data you will get, yeah. So from, I think they have two, LS1 and LS2. LS2 is not accessible. LS1 you will get some free data over some areas. But for example, in 2021 there is one flood, yeah, over some southern part of India. Okay, so then yeah, some basin, but you will not get that data, no. Because that data is scattered. Somewhere it's available one scene, and then in other area wherever you need, that is not available. So therefore you have to purchase that LS2 data. Nowadays currently it's going on, so that data is costly. So therefore what I do is generally the Sentinel-1 C. Okay, the Sentinel-1 C band data. So the C band data is also, yeah, many people has done using that study, because that data is free of cost, and the accuracy is also, yeah, it's not that bad as compared to the L band. Okay, for example, L band you will get 92%, and you may get like 89% accuracy using the C band data. So therefore you have to, as a user, you have to select whether you want to go for L band or C band. And in future, like after 2022, the L and S band, that is from the NISR, yeah, project, that is NASA ISRO, yeah, that collaborations, there will be a, yeah, new sensor that is launching. Okay, that is the NISR that we are working under that project. And there are almost 80 projects under the NISR all over the India, okay, at different domains. So I am into this flood related studies. So I think that will be one of the, yeah, very good opportunity for all these upcoming researchers, okay, to explore the L and S band for studying the flood related studies. So therefore, yeah, if you are aiming for future, then I will tell you, I will suggest to use the NISR L and S band. But if you want to study now, so then you have to purchase it, yeah, from JAXA and utilize that. If it is free of cost, then use the C band Sentinel-1.
Thank you so much. I think, yeah, Mr. Shunil Joshi want to ask something.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sunil? Yeah, I am not. I cannot hear you. I think your mic is off, it seems.
Okay, he has muted himself now.
Okay.
Okay, so then there is another query from Mr. Pankaj Kumar Pandey.
Okay.
So he is asking you to please comment on the reliability of IPCC scenario projections in the hilly regions of India.
Oh, this is very critical questions. Okay. Yeah, see, the IPC scenario is, yeah, has been changing, yeah, over the years. Around 1992, so there is a SRES scenarios, okay, like A1, A1B, yeah, B1, B2 scenarios. So you might have studied that, okay. And by 2007, so they came up with another concept, that is radiative forcing, RF, okay. So based on the radiative forcings, okay, how much energy, yeah, that is the net energy that is gained or lost, yeah, in the tropopause. So that is radiative forcing. So based on the radiative forcing 2.6, yeah, 4.5. So higher will be the radiative forcing accumulations, then yeah, the higher will be the worst will be the conditions. Okay, so that is based on those scenarios, RCP scenarios. Radiative forcings, which is based on the different dimensions like socio-economic point of view. What is the projections of populations that is going to happen in 2050, 2100, and then what is the economical progress that we are going to have? Okay, how much reliability that we will have towards the energy, whether the energy will be drawing mostly from the renewable sources, hydrological sources or solar based or nuclear based or some non-renewable energy sources, like mostly based on the fossil fuels. Okay, that all our thermal powers, everything is based on the fossil fuels. So based on the reliability of our energy generations, okay, so that is also has been considered on those scenarios. Okay, so we have the population growth, energy sources, and also the technological point of view. What kind of technology, like whether we are future we are going to have going to use the diesel petrol cars, or we are going to switch to the electrical cars. Those things has been, all this has been assumptions has been considered in the RCP scenarios. Okay, and recently again, so that has been become outdated again, the RCP scenarios. Okay, that 4 scenarios. In 2018 onwards, the IPCC came with another concept, that is socially shared. Okay, the scenarios, IPCC scenarios. Okay, again socially shared again. So I think they have gone from 4 scenarios to 8 scenarios. Okay, so there more social effects of the social functioning has been actually considered. Okay, so these are the actually how those all the scenarios has been generated by the IPCC. And coming to the your hilly regions part, so I don't think that some particular hilly regions assumptions has been considered. Okay, so you can explore into that. I do not have that much knowledge, especially that what local conditions, local parameters has been considered, especially if you are targeting the Himalayan regions. Okay, but I can say you that that socially shared scenarios, IP scenarios, which is came after 2018. So that is the recent things are happening, and most of the scientists are actually using. So I will I will also recommend for you to try to use that instead of RCP simple scenarios, try to use the SS scenarios. Okay.
I hope the query of Mr. Pankaj is answered. If you have anything else, you can please feel free to add, Mr. Pankaj. Okay, any other queries from the participants?
Yeah, since many people are different diversified background. Okay, so I don't know how much it is useful for them. So, but obviously those who are working in this field, okay, hydrology related, agriculture related. So I think this lecture will give you at least some help to understand different polarizations and different bands where we can apply actually. Yeah. So I hope that much could be useful in future.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Parida. So another query from my side, then when we are going for the validation of the soil moisture data that we have acquired at finer resolutions using either radar or optical data.
Okay.
So yeah, I understand that we normally associate the wavelength of the radar with the depth of penetration.
Yes.
But means when you went for the field data collection for soil moisture, so what was the the depth of measurement of soil moisture? Did it vary with the use of
A good question. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Good question. Actually, the data that field scout, the TDR 300, they have the different probe. Okay. Excuse me. They have different probes. Actually, they have given. So probes are coming with like 5 centimeter length, and then 7.6 centimeter, and then all 10 centimeter, 20 centimeter. So that means you have the flexibility to collect at different depths. Just you change the probe, and then based on that depth, you it will give you your soil moisture. Okay. In my study, so I have selected 5 centimeter the probe. Okay, that means I am collecting the moistures only in the top soil, that is to 5 centimeter. That is because the C band that I am using. Okay, so the C band has the capability to penetrate until 5 centimeter, not beyond 5 centimeter. Okay, but in case of L band, if you are using trying to use the L band, you can go until 10 centimeter. Okay, 10 to 12 centimeter your TDR probe. Okay, because the L band has the capacity of penetration capacity is much higher than the C band. Okay, so therefore I told you the L band is more useful for soil moisture than the C band. Okay, since I have used C band, so in the field I have to limit my probe until 5 centimeters.
Again, just to add to this question, so from your experience, how many samples would you recommend to be collected? For example, if you are going for a 10 by 10 meter area.
Okay, so usually always in statistical analysis, better is the degree of freedom. So we have better correlations. If you are asking the minimum, so I would suggest like 30 samples minimum.
Okay, 30 samples from a 10 meter by 10 meter area.
10 by 10 meters. So again, that depends on your size of the study area. But in statistical, to get at least good degree of freedom with the p value at least less than 0.05 or 0.001. Okay, to achieve that, minimum 30 samples is recommended. But maximum, if you use close to 100, it is better always. In my case, I took somewhere like 53 or 56, I think.
Just to clarify, so that is the number of samples per pixel means that we are going for?
No, so number of samples taken over the 10 by 10 meter. So in my area, so 10 by 10 meter area, so I took the measurements of TDR of 15 measurements. So from the 15 measurements, I calculate the mean for 10 by 10. So that mean is compared to afterward it is compared to the satellite data, because at a different location within the 10 meter your moisture is varying also. So the mean conditions of 15 samples will actually is good. Actually it's comparable. If you are taking only one, that may be it's very dangerous over having
absolutely
overestimated. Always recommended in other paper also I have seen that they have taken from 12 to 15 points to get the mean condition of over the 10 by 10 meters.
So would you recommend random sampling or any I saw that you showed that you used random sampling. So any definite pattern of sampling or random sampling is fine?
Within the 10 by 10 meter, for remote sensing point of view, random sampling is all right. But sometimes some systematic samplings can be done, or pre-designed samplings can be already done in some other applications. But remote sensing point of view, many people actually adopt the random things because it does not have that much problem.
Okay,
but
thank you so much.
To the user, it is again to the users whether they want to do random or they want to go for systematic sampling.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Parida, for the detailed answers. Now, there is another query from Mr. Atiya Khan in the chat box. So he's asking, what is the meaning of ground truth verification in terms of remote sensing?
Good questions. Okay. See, in the remote sensing, all the data is mostly it's airborne data or spaceborne data. Okay. From the space, which is the satellite is at 800 kilometer. Okay. From the 800 kilometer, it is capturing the data from the surface. So in a remote sensing community, it is think that the satellite data that we get or we analyzed and then we get the some kind of output. So it may not be 100% accurate. Okay. The accuracy of satellite varies from mostly 60% to 90%. Okay, depending on the applications. So the remote sensing data, the accuracy never exceeds more than 90%. Okay, so keeping in mind that, okay, so it is always suggested that whatever you do, any kind of applications, agriculture or hydrology or water resources, always recommended that you try to validate your output that you got from the spaceborne data, any kind of output, with the field conditions. So that is called the ground truth verifications. I hope it is clear now, the meaning of ground truth verifications.
Thank you so much from Mr. Atiya Khan. And another query, I hope that we can take on this last query in the session. So it is from Mr. Pankaj Pandey again. So he's asking a quite interesting question. He is asking that for agriculture application, soil moisture depth of up to 60 centimeter depth is required for most of the for most of the time for irrigation scheduling. So is satellite derived moisture content suitable for irrigation scheduling?
Yeah, this is a very critical and yeah. I think it needs I think some kind of investigations whether it is directly can be applied for irrigation scheduling. Although, as I told you, the satellite data has penetrations limitations. The L band is could able to penetrate until 12 centimeter. Okay, so until 12 centimeter, the satellite works better. But if you are saying that beyond 12 centimeters, so it is still the questions that I cannot give you absolute answer, okay, yes or no, in terms of yes or no. So I leave to you try to do detail some literature studies whether it can be useful until 12 centimeter depth, and sometimes the higher bands like I think P band also future it may come, but that is far away right now. So but again also some of the crops, that agricultural crops, sometimes they are also limited to 20 to 30 centimeter, and most of the roots basically the excess of moistures, okay, how the roots can be access the moisture, that is important. So the roots are the roots locations, whether it is beyond 30 centimeters or mostly the surface, okay. So that is very critical thing also, and that varies from crop to crop, okay. Maybe for wheat, the root, the allocation of root or the pattern of root, it has been it is growing underneath, okay. It may differ from other crops like rice and maize, other things. So exact crops you have to also take the knowledge, you should have exact knowledge into that, how the root structure, what is the structure of root, and what is the depth of until what depth it is going, and accordingly you can actually connect to these things. But the SAR data, I can tell you, it has a limitations until now. So until 12 centimeter you can go, okay. So that's the limitation of that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parida. And I would also like to thank you for the wonderful interactive discussion that you had with the participants. And I hope that the participants would have learned a lot from your talk today, in which you presented different case studies. You presented your own research work, uh, uh, in which you discuss a lot of different things, from varying from soil moisture to the flood inundation. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the organizers and the Shivnada University, the whole Shivnada University, I thank you so much for accepting our invitation and delivering a talk here.
It's
And
my pleasure. Yeah.
I hope we can have you sometime in the campus in the physical mode as well in the near future.
Sure, I will try. Yeah. And the
Okay,
materials I will send. Yeah, to today I will send you the materials.
okay, sure. So I'll be
Hmm.
sharing it with the